and welcome back to another Legendary Lords ranking. Today we're going to be ranking every single Beastmen Legendary Lord from worst to best. This is going to be including the brand new Legendary Lord Torax, and is of course going to be taking into account everything that is coming with the entire Beastmen rework. You might think it's good planning that I've saved this one till now, but I assure you it is absolutely luck. Anyway, before we get into this, I'll just briefly go over the rules and criteria. I'm going to be focusing on campaign rather than multiplayer because that's kind of my thing, and also anyone can make anything work in multiplayer if they are good enough. I'm going to be taking into account everything I can that is specific to the Lord and faction. This includes the unique effects they bring, the effects they have on their army, and of course the Lord themselves and their performance in battle. If you're not aware, this is all building up to me ranking every single Legendary Lord in Warhammer 2 from worst to best, so definitely subscribe if you want to see that. Now without further ado, let's get into 4th place. Coming in last position, it is Maligor the Dark Omen. His faction starts in the middle of the wasteland in the south of the old world. He is a starting war with the top knots, so it's not too tough to take them out to begin with, so you really want to stay in this central area to grind your levels and your horde before heading north or south. You're also very far away from the factions you need to take out to win, so by the time you get to them, they'll be much harder to take out, meaning you need even more levels and an even more powerful horde. For his faction effects, he grants minus 50% dread cost to all hero capacity upgrades, plus 10% to campaign move range, and plus 5 to recruit rank for Bray Shamans and Great Bray Shamans. For his personal army, he grants plus 50% to move range when using the beast paths, grants minus 8 leadership and minus 100% casualty replenishment for enemy armies, and all of his harpies cause fear. For his starting units, he brings a feral manticore, a giant, and some harpies. Maligor himself is a powerful flying spellcaster with access to parts of the laws of wilds, beasts, shadows, and death. He has great speed since he's flying, so can dash around the map and support his army wherever he's needed. He still has decent weapon strength, but he's not tough at all, so you want to keep him out of combat as much as possible. He of course has no mounts, and with all his items and abilities, they grant him buffs to magic and your units and debuffs to enemies. Now the reason for his rank, he has the worst starting location of the bunch. When you're the Beastmen, starting location really doesn't matter as much, but this one is definitely the worst of the lot. You are in the middle of the wasteland where all the greenskins are, where all the dwarves are, which are very powerful factions right now. It's also not very far north or south before you run into some other legendary lords, such as the Tomb Kings or even some rats, and no one wants to fight the rats. As for his faction effects, they are hero focused, so that doesn't really contribute much if you aren't going to spam them. His extended move range, however, is fantastic, and when you combine the faction effect with his army effect, you can cross the map in record speed, as long as you don't get intercepted. His local debuffs to enemies are really strong. The leadership isn't incredible, but 0 casualty replenishment for all local armies is pretty stupid. In combat, he's a powerful spellcaster, but weak in melee, so he will die if you even think about sending him in. He's much better for being able to fly, but he's for sure not the strongest. Coming in 3rd place, we have Khazrak the One Eye. His faction starts in Nestalia on the southwest tip of the northern old world. Ikit should leave you alone since you have a non-aggression pact, so there's only one direction to go. Once the Stalia are taken care of, you want to head north into Bretonnia and eventually up to the Empire. This lets you grind your levels on your horde on lots of smaller and weaker factions before you get to the stronger ones in the north, so you shouldn't have too hard a time. For his faction effects, he grants minus 15% to dread cost for all unit capacity upgrades, plus 15% to ambush success chance, and plus 15% to evasion chance when using the beast paths. For his personal army, he grants a reduced bestial rage penalty and detection chance when using the hidden encampment. He grants vanguard deployments for all Razorgore chariots and Bestigors, and poison attacks for all Ungors. For his starting units, he brings 2 Bestigors and a Razorgore chariot. Khazrak himself is a powerful frontlines battler. He has heavy armor and a decent HP pool. He does high damage, but he's not overly armor piercing, so will drop off once he gets against more heavily armored opponents. He has 2 chariot mounts that only get more elite and powerful, and turn him into a single entity charging unit. With all his items and abilities, he buffs himself and allies. Now the reasoning for his rank, he has a decent starting location that lets him get on a roll all the way up the map until he reaches the Empire and Bretonnia. This allows him to get to the needed power level and take them on very rapidly. The cheaper capacity upgrades are brilliant since you'll always want to get more powerful units, especially once you get more than one army, and the increased ambush success chance and evasion chance are great for catching enemies unaware. Add the reduced detection when encamped, and Khazrak is incredibly hard to pin down. His other army buffs aren't too bad and will buff units in the early game and late game, but they neglect the true power of the Beastmen, the Beasts. He is a strong but basic fighter that can only fight and do nothing else really in combat, but he does a decent job at that. Anyway, moving on to 2nd place, we of course have Morga the Shadow Gave. His faction starts right in the top middle of the Empire at war with Nordland. There are plenty of weaker Empire sub-factions for you to grind levels and income from in the early game, and you also have a close proximity to a lot of factions you need to take out to win the campaign, so you can grow rapidly in power and take them out nice and quick. For his faction effects, he grants plus 4 to capacity of a Chaos Spawn, 8% to casualty replenishment rate, plus 3 to Chaos Corruption for all characters, and minus 15% to Horde building construction cost. For his personal army, he grants an upgraded raiding stance, which spreads corruption and attrition, plus 20% magical resistance for all units, immunity to Athel Loren and Awakened Forest attrition, and plus 5 to Chaos Corruption. For his starting units, he brings a Razorgore herd, Centaurs with thrown axes, and some Chaos Spawn. Morga himself has an aura of vile transmutation that surrounds him whenever he's in combat. He can also only ever be injured for one turn, so if you do lose a battle, he'll be back incredibly quickly. In combat, he is a frontlines battler with decent damage and poison attacks, so he will debuff whatever he's going against, making him into a great support lord. He comes with regeneration, so will heal the whole time in combat, which makes him deceptively tough. He has no mounts, and with all his items and abilities, he's granted several summons and buffs for himself and allies. The reason for his rank, he has a great starting location that lets you quickly grind income and levels on the weak Empire subfactions in rapid speed and take out Reichland in record time. His faction effects are really great for keeping your army healthy and growing your hordes at a reduced cost, which will net you more powerful units earlier on. His army buffs aren't too incredible, but do allow you to prepare a region for invasion just by raiding, which is something you should be doing anyway. Morga himself is an okay support lord of his poison damage and abilities that allow him to bring more units into battle than the army limit allows, which is always a fantastic addition. Now, in first place. I know none of you have played him yet, but I hope you could tell from the video that came out on Tuesday that Torax is incredibly strong. His faction starts in the northwest corridor between the edge of the map and the Dark Elves. He starts a war with some weak green skins, which allow you to get a quick hit of power quite rapidly. There are a lot of minor factions nearby that allow you to rapidly gain money and levels to prepare you to take out your campaign targets. Once you are ready, you simply go from Nagron down and wipe out the map and just keep getting stronger. For his faction effects, he has the Rampage mechanic, which allows Torax to continually battle and move many times in one turn and earn faction rewards for long rampages. I can't stress enough just how overpowered this faction mechanic is. And for his other faction effect, he grants minus 25% to dread cost for Minotaur capacity upgrades. For his personal army, he leaves a River of Blood effect in regions where he wins battles, he grants 10% weapon strength for Minotaurs, and an improved raiding stance that grants increased movement range but reduced income. For his starting units, he brings a Gorgon, Harpies, and some Minotaurs with shields. In battle, Torax has access to the Blood Beast ability and is a very powerful and large fighter. He has a lot of armor and a ton of health, so takes a long time to get taken out. He has great damage with a ton of armor piercing and fire imbued melee attacks, so can go against pretty much anything and wipe it off the face of the earth. He's pretty speedy for a large footlord, with large area of effect charges, so can take on duels and front lines with ease. Of course, he has no mounts, and all his items and abilities grant buffs for himself and allies, and an explosion ability. The reason for him being in first place is his starting location lets him build up in power incredibly rapidly and take on his unique campaign goals incredibly quickly. His Rampage mechanic, of course, lets him wipe out a large portion of the map quicker than any other faction in the game, sometimes in the span of a single turn, all while providing the faction with more and more bonuses the harder he goes. His other faction effects, however, are fairly basic, but what more can you ask for when you have that fantastic Rampage? His improved movement stance is useful for traversing the map quite quickly whilst earning a bit of extra cash and replenishing your troops. And finally, he's an extremely strong battling lord that can kick a serious amount of ass in combat and makes up the majority of your army's power in the early game. And that concludes it. That is my personal ranking for the Beastmen Legendary Lords in Warhammer 2. If you didn't agree with this ranking, then be sure to leave yours down in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed at any point, then please do consider leaving it a like. It really does help out a lot. And if you want to see more videos like this, then maybe click that subscribe button so you stay up to date. After all, it's free. I'd like to take this time to thank all supporters of the channel, in particular Kobe Said So and Nifty Norm, for subscribing to me at the Unclean Ones tier. I really can't thank you enough. Since it's been a while, I'll just drop this here. If you want to get onto this end screen, then you can do it a variety of ways. You can join the membership program here on YouTube, you can become a patron on the Patreon, which is linked in the description, or you can subscribe on Twitch, which is of course always linked in the description. Any and all contributions go directly into funding the channel, and I really can't thank every single one of you enough for your extreme generosity. One more time, thank you so very much for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.